that pushes things in its own interests, even if it doesn't benefit the vast majority of the population. This has happened so many times previously in history, and it's probably going to happen again. One of the biggest dangers to the planet today is this technological utopia, because probably for the elite it will work. If bad comes to worst, and when the flood comes, the scientists will build a Noah's Ark for the elite, leaving the rest to drown, the rest of the people and then the rest of the ecosystem. But
back to the Factor Uncensored. Are post-apocalyptic plans for the wealthy and powerful literally right under our noses? A former HUD official says this has been in the works since the 90s. Let's take a listen. And joining us now on The Factor Uncensored, we have Todd Duplantis from The Road Beyond. Todd, you know I love these types of stories, and this story, I want to believe it's true. I'm not sure. We have the former, she served as Assistant Secretary of the Housing and Urban Development Department, or HUD, under the Bush administration, and she says $21 trillion has been spent on underground bunkers in cities, and she's claiming it's for the super rich, and her name is Catherine Fitz. So are we buying her story now? I think it's in the New York Post.
That's right. Thanks for having me, Isaiah. This story's been floating around for a couple of years, and this just kind of lends a little bit of credibility. She was on with an interview with Tucker Carlson on his podcast, and she says, since 1998, the U.S. government, as you mentioned, has spent more than $21 trillion in bomb shelters, or more or less underground facilities. In many cases, they're saying these underground facilities reach across 170 different locations across the country. Now, this has been going on for a while, or at least reports of it. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Gates, they're all said to have built these facilities many years ago, preparing for something. What is the question? And there are some theories as to what's going behind this as well, in the background behind this as well.
So is anyone from any administration, presidential administration, from Bush to Obama to Biden to Trump, any one of them responding at all to this?
I haven't heard any response on this, but there's been some talk about why Trump wants Greenland, and it could have to do with these bunkers being built. If you remember, when he talked about Greenland initially, he said we need it for strategic operations. Mm-hmm. Now, you're going to be going down a rabbit hole here.
I'll take it. You know I love it, Todd. Let's go down.
There is some heavy thought that the poles may be shifting in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but there's thoughts in the scientific community that we are looking at a pole shift. Mm-hmm. The pole shift would put Greenland in a better situation than the rest of the United States. Think about what happened allegedly when the poles shifted in the past before. It caused calamity, world disasters. People had to hide. Therefore, these underground bunkers, and in many cases, the elite are buying these in droves. There's companies out there that build these so that they can escape any disaster. What type of disaster are we talking about? We're talking about floods, earthquakes. All of that could be on the table. I don't know if having a 2-story to 3-story silo, if you're an ultra-rich person, to hide in is going to help it if we're covered by, 30 to 80 feet of water on top of us. That's yet to be seen. But if the poles shift, that would put Greenland in a very prime location, according to some reports.
Now, all it takes is someone getting in front of President Trump, asking him about these bunkers, because he's been willing to answer just about any damn thing. So let's hopefully you or I get in front of him at some point and we can ask him about these bunkers, Todd. Todd Duplantis from The Road Beyond. Thank you for joining us here on the
Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect tabernacle of David that are scattered abroad across the 4 winds of the earth. So you seeing what's in these devils' plans. And it's all prophetic, of course. These devils going to try to make their escape, because they're shaking in their boots. They're nervous of, the imminent dangers of judgment, the evils that's going to increase the destruction. So, they're planning their escape as we speak. They put so much money into these different projects, and it's all based on keeping them secure and away from any kind of harm or catastrophe. They don't mind, the rest of the population being, the sacrifice, billions in casualties. It's just as long as they escape with their spoils, cause all this, turmoil in the earth, messing with the climate, using your weather modification technology, causing all these earthquakes and floods. And now all of a sudden you want to have underground bunkers built, very highly expensive. There's still world hunger. More people are impoverished, more homelessness, but you got all this money by the trillions, and mind you, the country is trillions in debt. But where did they scramble to get these extra trillions to build a freaking underground bunker? So if you ask me, the super rich, they're guilty, and they know that they're guilty, man. That's why they're afraid, and they're trying to make this move. Now, just to start off, let's get some scriptures. All right, just to give perspective. Now, this is what the Lord say. This is one of the Proverbs. Proverbs 19:21, it says, there are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand. All right. It is in the NLT. It says you can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. You don't always think that you're going to be a success in everything that you do just because you happen to be super rich and the earth is given into your hands. The Most High is still the one that's in control. All right. And you think that you think for a split second, the Lord, he's going to just forget about you because you dug up this little crevice, this little secret compartment, down hundreds of feet into the earth, that he's just going to somehow just forget who you are and where you are. Now, it don't work like that. Let me get this in Job real quick, because it doesn't matter where you go on the earth. All right, the Lord, when he comes for you, there's nowhere you can run. There's nowhere you can hide, right? Job 26:6, the underworld is naked in the Most High's presence. The place of destruction is uncovered. So you can't really do nothing about it. The Lord already knows that you're going to go and try to hide in these underground bunkers, down in the rocks and in the holes. You're going to try to go into these little mountain retreats, just to escape the impending judgments. All right. Well, the Lord, his eyes are in every place. Job 26:6 in the KJV, it says hell, which means basically the grave or the pit, down in the earth. It says is naked before him, and destruction have no covering. Yeah, but you're gonna try to have these rocks, cover you. Let me get Isaiah 2. This is Isaiah 2 and 17. It says, and the loftiness of man shall be bowed down. And Esau, right now, you're at the max. And you're at the height of your kingdom. It says that you would your excellency would reach up to the heavens. So you're super proud. That guy, Yuval Noah Harari, he's a prime example of that. The shit that he's known for speaking, high level pride and arrogancy, total delusion. But it says that in Obadiah that the pride of your heart have deceived you. He who dwell in the clefts of the rocks. His habitation is high. You're very lofty. All right. It says, and the haughtiness of man shall be made low. Because the Lord alone is going to be exalted in that time. All right. He's going to show up. And in all nations, everybody around, they're going to have no choice but to bow to his majesty. Your AI is going to mean nothing. Your super soldiers, your humanoids, your robots, none of that is going to matter. Okay. It says, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. And your wealth, your bag is not going to buy you the security that you think you will have. Because it's not going to save you from the Lord's wrath. The scriptures say, riches profit not in the day of the Lord's wrath. You done done too much wickedness in the earth. Way too much wickedness. This is why the earth is suffering now. It says, in the idols he shall utterly abolish. All your standing images, your obelisk, these temples where y'all, worship Satan. Your monuments, all that's going to get destroyed. It says, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth. Which you don't have any issue dwelling in that type of habitat, whether in the earth or in a cave. Because that was once your home, back in the east, Mount Seir, Petra, and Jordan. You once lived in there. So you'll live in a mountain and you'll even live underground. Okay. It says, for the fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty, when he arise to shake terribly the earth. And, they was mentioning how they're trying to escape disasters like earthquakes and floods and, anything having to do with what they call climate change. It ain't climate change. And that's a pseudo scientific term coined by the elite. All right, just for agenda purposes. This is the reason why we want to block out the sun. This is the reason why we want to, stop using fossil fuel and use solar energy. This is why we want to do this and do that. No, you want to take control of the earth. Take all the resources for yourself and cause all this destruction using your cloud seeding, your HARP, your direct energy weapons. That's what you've been using to cause all this disastrous weather. Ultimately, it's the Heavenly Father because he allows you to do it. All right. But you didn't destroy the earth long enough. And now you're planning your escape. That's not how that worked. Okay. Let me get this in Sirach 16. Yeah, Sirach 16 and 13, it says, the sinner should not escape with his spoils. And that's what they believe. And they're going to go down underground, while everybody is in the midst of danger. Everybody's finna get wiped out in a nuclear holocaust. Destructive weather, famine, and you're going to be down there eating, drinking, doing your, what you do on the surface. You can do your little activities down there. They got, all type of luxurious activities down there, luxurious goods. They've been hoarding up food while telling you that your shelves are finna go empty. Your food is finna be scarce. So they can orchestrate a famine while they're hoarding up all kind of food. And everything organic and fresh. No chemicals in it, nothing to recall, but your food's steady getting recalled. Yeah, y'all not gonna escape. It says the sinner shall not escape with his spoils, and the patience of the godly shall not be frustrate. All right, we know, and you know, we know what the scriptures say concerning the patience and the faith of the saints. All right, we're gonna rule these nations with a rod of iron. We're gonna put these nations into captivity, and it's gonna start with their elite. We're gonna put them into captivity. You know, it talks about the chief ones of the earth, the ones that are on high. All right, they're gonna try to hide themselves, but there's gonna be nothing but chains awaiting them. All right, but let me finish this out. It says, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth, for the fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty, when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. In that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats, to go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks, for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty, when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. All right. And when the Lord, you know, he's going to come and he's going to show his indignation. Nobody can stand before him when that happens. That's why you're going to have to be on the Lord's good side. It says that in Ephesians, or is it in Luke, you know, basically to be counted worthy to stand before the Son of Man. You know, who shall be able to stand in his presence? Hey, it says that in Apocrypha, who shall not be beaten to, who shall not be threatened and beaten to powder by his presence. All right. And that's what's going to literally happen, man. You know, the earth is going to shake. Revelation, was that Revelation 11? Because he's only going to have mercy on his elect. They're going to be spared from the Lord's wrath and his judgment. Is Revelation 11 and 12, it says, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither, and they ascended to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. In the same hour there was a great earthquake, a great shaking, terribly. And the 10th part of the city fell, and the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. You know, that's a complete number of men that's going to be destroyed, right? All of Babylon is going to get wiped out. It says, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. Okay, so that's what's going to take place. And not everybody's going to be able to come. Only the elect are going to be gathered and beamed up. The rest of you, this is why the super rich, they already know about this. They know that the prophecies are right. So they're trying to, you know, plan their escape early. Let me let me grab this in Revelation 6. It is Revelation 6 and 13. It says, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and island were removed out of their places, that great shaking. And that we know what that's describing when it says the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. That's talking about the nuclear fallout from the impact of the nuclear detonation, when it causes that mushroom cloud. You know, it's going to send that strong, fiery, hot wind that's going to melt everything in its path. Okay? It's going to shake everything out of its place. And the kings of the earth, you know, the super rich, all right, the international banking families, it says, and the great men and the rich men, the super rich, the wealthy, and the chief captains and the mighty men, and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. All right. And that's probably going to be in other countries, because if you over here in Babylon, when that goes down, you're not going to make it. You know, because that's going to be too much fire, too much heat. too much debris. Nothing's going to make it if you underneath the surface in Babylon. Because that's where all the missiles, most of the missiles are going to be shot over here. That's not going to save you from judgment. And set unto the mountains and the rocks fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the day of wrath, it's like for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? And they know that they won't be able to stand. They've never been in a good standing because they're the wicked, the border of wickedness, in whom the Lord will have indignation forever. So not one Edomite will be able to stand before him. So you wicked Israelites that's still to this day trying to save him, you won't be able to stand either. Because you're trying to stand in the middle for an enemy, somebody who the Lord has indignation for forever. You're going to perish right along with this devil, man. You see that they trying to leave? Why are they making these expensive ass plans to get up out of here? They don't have no contingency plan for you. You got to fend for yourself. But you trying to save them. You think the Lord's going to have mercy and grace for these people. So this is Amos 9 and verse 2. And it says, though they dig into hell, then shall my hand take them. Though they climb down, it's like though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. So you can go anywhere. You can go up into outer space, create your little Elysium, or you can go down into your little underground bunkers down in the earth, in the pit. You can dig down there all you want. You can put your weapons down there. You can put your food down there. You can create your little bowling alleys down there. Put some synthetic grass down there and create golf courses down there. You can do all that, but the Lord, the earth is even hell is naked. Okay, nothing can escape the eyes of the Lord, man. His eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Okay, it says, and though they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, I will search and take them out thence, and though they be hid from my sight in the bottom of the sea, thence will I command the serpent, and he shall bite them. So yeah, even if you try to go down into the water, the Lord could command Leviathan to come pay you a visit. All right, you won't escape that either. So either way, you're going to be in the Lord's hands. Don't think that you're going to escape and he's going to forget about you. And let me go to Habakkuk 2 and 9, and I'm gonna read it in the NLT. It is Habakkuk 2 and 9. You done got yourself wealthy, off of all this debt and bloodshed, wars, and these are all bankers' wars. All this catastrophe, the world health been on a super decline. A lot of people dying from all these illnesses and infirmities based on the industries that you control. GMO, Monsanto's, Big Pharma. So because of all this bloodshed, all this death and infirmity, and you thinking that you're going to take all that wealth that you accumulated because of all these evil devices, and you're just going to pack up and leave, let everybody die in disaster, and then you're going to come back up. You're going to wait after the fallout until everything, the smoke clears, and then you're going to just have the earth to yourself. Very delusional. Habakkuk 2 and 9 in the NLT, it says, what sorrow awaits you who build big houses with money gained dishonestly? You believe your wealth will buy security. And that, the underground bunkers, that's part of their security, to try to stay safe from danger, from the fear of any type of disaster. You even got the doomsday plane that they built. That's supposed to it's supposed to protect them in the midst of a nuclear war going off. They call it the doomsday plane. It'll be able to withstand the impact. None of that is gonna work, man. All right, it says putting your family's nest beyond the reach of danger. And that's what they are trying to do. Let me get it in the AMP. Habakkuk 2:9, it says, woe, judgment is coming to him who obtains wicked gain for his house and thinks by doing so to set his nest on high, that he may be rescued from the hand of evil. So he just think he's exempt. NIV, it says, woe to him who builds his house by unjust gain, setting his nest on high to escape the clutches of ruin. You have plotted the ruin of many people, shaming your own house and forfeiting your life. The stones of the wall will cry out and the beams of the woodwork will echo it. You know, basically receipts of the wealth that you got by bloodshed. Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed and establishes a town by injustice. And this is what these devils been doing all along. In order for them to get their new world order, blood have to continue to spill. Okay? You know, destabilizing governments, you know, taking out whole towns and cities by way of war so that you can build up your 15-minute cities, establish, you know, a global technocracy. Have everybody under surveillance. You can watch everybody from, you know, from a safe place where nobody can, you know, scope you out. The Most High is watching you the whole time, man. Okay. This is Hebrews 4:13. And it says, neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do. Okay. And the Lord, he's gonna spot you out, and then he's gonna after he scope you out, spot you out, he's gonna get you, right? The real spot him got him, all right? He's gonna spot you devils, he's gonna get you, he's gonna get you up out of there using his battle axe and weapons of war, and this is what's gonna happen with you. Isaiah 24:21. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day, the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth, and they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and they shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall they be visited. So, you know, you're going to be taken captive, whose captives we were. Okay? And you're going to be put up in an idle place, all right? And, you know, you're going to be on your best behavior because you're going to be in fear. Okay, because the sons of God under the command of the first begotten, all right, our Lord and Savior Yahushai, is going to come and put everything back in order. It talks about how he's going to, you know, put his enemies up under his feet until he make the earth his footstool. All you powers that be is going to be subjected to his power and his authority. And you ain't going to run a damn thing, man. You're not going to be calling no shots for the world, you know, dictating how the direction of the world through your nefarious, futile plans. So they doing this in vain. All right. It's all in vain. And y'all shook. So, you know, that pretty much concludes the lesson, and hopefully y'all are edified. I'm gonna give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And to the next one, Shalom.